Finnegans Wake, Book 1, Chapter 5, Section 109. Luckily, there's another cant to the questy. Has any fellow of dime a dozen type, it might, with some profit, some dull evening, quietly be hinted, has any usual sort of ornery josser, flat-chested 40-ish, faintly flatulent and given to rationation by syncopation, in the elucidation of complications of his greatest von Jined Dinus descendant danced. Only another the son of, in fact, ever looked sufficiently longly at a quite everyday-looking stamped, addressed envelope? Admittedly, it is an utter husk. Its face, in all its featureful perfection of imperfection, is its fortune. It exhibits only the civil or military clothing of whatever passion-pallid nudity or plague-purple nakedness may happen to tuck itself under its flap. Yet, to concentrate solely on the literal sense or even the psychological content of any document to the sore neglect of the enveloping facts themselves, circumstantiating, it is just as hurtful to sound sense, and let it be added to the truest taste, as were some fellow in the act of perhaps getting an intro from another fellow, turning out to be a friend in need of his, say, to a lady of the latter's acquaintance, engaged in performing the elaborative anticistral ceremony of upstairs straight away, to run off and vision her plump and plain in her natural altogether, preferring to close his blink-hard's eyes to the ethical fact that she was, after all, wearing for the space of the time being some definite articles of evolutionary clothing, inharmonious creations a captious critic might describe them as, or not strictly necessary, or a trifle irritating here and there, but for all that suddenly full of local colour and personal perfume, and suggestive, too, of so very much more, and capable of being stretched, filled out, if need or wish were, of having their surprisingly like coincidental parts separated, don't they now, for better survey by the deft hand of an expert, don't you know, who, in his heart, doubts either that the facts of feminine clothing are there all the time, or that the feminine fiction, stranger than the facts, is there also at the same time, only to the rear? Or that one may be separated from the other? Or that both may then be contemplated simultaneously? Or that each may be taken up and considered in turn apart from the other? Here, let a few artifacts fend in their own favour. The river felt she wanted salt. That was just where Brian came in. The country asked for bear's paw for din-din, and bounden it got it surly. We, who live under heaven, we of the clovery kingdom, we Middlesex people who have watched the sky overreaching the land, we suddenly have. Our isle is Sange, the place, that stern chucker mayhap not, once said to repetition, in that Lutran's conservatory way of his, that is it a chapel, as it a Lucan, was the one place, ut out nult, in this mad val of tars, whose verdures yellowed, there ever fainten parks his car, while its tamer stay is the dream of drainophilias, where the possible was the improbable, and the improbable the inevitable, if the proverbial bishop of our holy and undivided with this me ken, or me ken zot, in the quiz tune haver-mashed, had his 2 nails on the head, we are in for a sequentiality of improbable possibles. Though possibly nobody, after having grubbed up a lock of cold, above his subject probably in Aristoteles or the Vivle, will go out of his way to applaud him on the own boyiest back of his remark for utterly impossible As are all these events, they are probably as like those which may have taken place as any others, which never took place at all, are ever likely to be. Ahan! About that original hen, midwinter, frore core, was in the offing and premver a promise of prill, when as Keisha Briggies sang life's old satat song, an ice-clad shiverer, merest of bantlings, observed a cold fowl behaviorizing strangely on that fatal midden or chip factory or comical-bottomed cups jute dump for short, afterwards changed into the orangery, which, in the course of deeper demolition, unexpectedly one bushman's holiday in its limon threw up a few spontaneous fragments of orange peel, the last remains of an outdoor meal by some unknown sunseeker or place hider illico way back in his mistridden past. What child of a strand looper but keeping little Kevin in the despondful surrounding of such sneezing cold would ever have troved up on a strait that was called a street, a motive for future sanctity, by euchring the finding of the Ardagh chalice by another highly innocent and beachwalker, whilst trying with pious clamour to wheedle tipperar, raw, re-raw, putterers, out of Now Zealand, inspinct of the patch brittle of the massacre. A duel, to die today, god damn and bigot, sticks and stanks of most of the Jacobiters. The bird in the case was Belinda of the Dorans, a more than quinquagenarian, Terz's prize with Cerny medal, cheaper Lizzie's Hain exposition, and what she was scratching at the hour of clocking 12 looked for all this zogzag world like a goodish-sized sheet of letter paper originating by shipped from Boston, Mass. Of the last of the first, to dear whom it proceeded to mention Maggie well, and all at home's health well, only the hate turned the mild on the Van Houtens and the General's elections, with a lovely face of some born gentleman with a beautiful present of wedding cakes for dear, thank you, Christy, and with grand funferal of poor Father Michael. Don't forget, on to life's and Muggy. Well, how are you, Maggie? And hope soon to hear well, and must now close it with fondest to the twins, with 4 cross kisses for Holy Paul, Holy Comer, Holy Polly, Holy Island. P.S. from Locust may eat all, but this sign shall they never. Affectionate, large-looking Taish of Teak, the stain, and that a tea stain, for the over-cautelousness of the master bilker here, as usual, signing the page away, marked it off on the spout of the moment as a genuine relic of ancient Irish pleasant pottery, of that Lydia-like languishing class, known as a hurry me o'er the hazy. Why then how? Well, almost any photoist worth his chimicots will tip anyone asking him the teaser that if a negative of a horse happens to melt enough while drying, well, what you do is get, well, a positively grotesquely distorted macro mass of all sorts of horse happy values and masses of melt while horse. Tip. Well, this freely is what must have occurred to our missive. There's a sod of turb for you. Please wisp off the grass, unfilthed from the butcher by the sagacity of a look-me little like-me long hen. Heated residence in the heart of the orange-flavoured mud mound had part obliterated the negative to start with, causing some features palpably nearer your pecker to be swollen up most grossly, while the farther back we manage to wiggle the more we need the loan of a lens to see as much as the hen saw. Tip. You is feeling like you was lost in the bush, boy? You says it is a pooling, sample jungle of woods. You most shouts out, be thicket me for a stump of a beech, if I have the paltriest notions what the fairest he all means. Gee up, girlie, the quad gospellers may own the targum, but any of the Zingari Shularim may pick a peck of kindlings yet from the sack of old Hensign. Lead, kindly fowl. They always did. Ask the ages. What bird has done yesterday, man may do next year. Be it fly, be it moult, be it hatch, be it agreement in the nest. For her socio-scientific sense is sound as a bell, sir. Her volucrine automutativeness right on normalcy. She knows. She just feels she was kind of born to lay and love eggs. Trust her to propagate the species and whoosh, her fluff ball safe through din and danger. Lastly, but mostly, in her genesic field, it is all game and no gammon. She is ladylike in everything she does, and plays the gentleman's part every time. Let us auspice it. Yes, before all this has time to end, the golden age must return with its vengeance. Man will become dirigible. Ague will be rejuvenated. Woman with her ridiculous white burden will reach by one step sublime incubation. The main wanting human lioness with her dishorn, disepulchral man-ram will lie down together, publicly flank upon fleece. No, assuredly they are not justified, those gloom-pourers who grouse that letters have never been quite their old selves again since that weird weekday in bleak Janavir. Yet, how palmidate in oasis to oasis, when, to the shock of both, Biddy Doran looked at literature. And she may be a mere Marcella, this midgety majesty, mistress of arts, but it is not to hear or say of some anomorous letter. Signed Toga Gerilis, Teasy dear. We have a cup of her fist right against our nosibos. We note the paper with her jotty young watermark, Notre Dame du Bon Marche. And she has a heart of Aaron. What lumililts as she falls with her falamineers and her Nadia nods. As a strow will shaw, she does the wind bleg, recting to show the rudice of a rober curling, and showing the fansaties of a frisette. But how many of her readers realize that she is not out to dizzle-dazzle with a great uncouth of post-mantuum glossaries from the Lapins and the Greeks? Nothing's on her wildlife. Grab our gooden grandy for an almium etymologists like Daria U. Maurolius and Zovo Trimasarov Mera Vima Rurivian. Dimsen. She feel plain plate, one flat fact thing, and if, lastways, firstwise, a man alone sign onions, Utharas has no rate to done a kick at with onion anakars, about tutus milking forest, and the rears on the outerand asakin the tutus to be for farther. Thing crookly exen every pasture zixen dixen like Nessehima round hers, the matter be by kink can with downed mine looking gated. Mess dames, marmouselles, messerfs, silver pace, all schwants, schreits, isht, till the cocks troot about him. Kapuk, no minsies matter. He had to see life foully, the plaque and the smut. Schreits. There were 3 men in him. Schreits. Dancing. Schreits was his only only 2 feebles with apple harlots, and a little more vogels, specially schreits when they peaches. Honey's wore camellia paints, yours very truthful, I'd dabble in. Yet is it but an old story, the tale of a tree stone and one Isolde, of a man's held by tent pegs and his pal, what who loosed on the run? What cadman could, but badman wouldn't? What Genoa man against any Venice, and why Kate takes charge of the waxworks? Let us now, whether health, dangers, public orders, and other circumstances permitting, of perfectly convenient, if you police, after you, police, pardoning mine, ich beam so fresh bay, drop this jiggery-pokery and talk straight turkey, meat to mate. For while the ear, be we all Michaels or Nicholists, may sometimes be inclined to believe others the eye, whether browned or no lensed, find it devilish hard now and again, even to believe it itself. Habes oris et num vae dibis, habis oculus ac manapal buat tip, drawing nearer to take our slant at it, since after all it has met with misfortune while underground. Let us see all there may remain to be seen. I am a worker, a tombstone mason, anxious to please Avery Boories and Julie glad when Christmas comes his once a year. You are pujoist, unctuous to polize nope bobbies and toony belly. Solely when 'tis time to go home gin, we cannot say eye to eye, we cannot smile nose from nose. Still, one cannot help noticing that rather more than half of the lines run north-south in the Nemzis and Bucharest directions, while the others go west-east in search for Malaysias, for Bulgarad, for tiny tot, though it looks, when Stutz chops nistling along with Incunabula. It has its cardinal points for all that. These ruled barriers, along with the traced words run, march, halt, walk, stumble at doubtful points, stumble up again, in comparative safety, seem to have been drawn first of all in a pretty checker with lampblack and blackthorn. Such crossing is anti-Christian, of course, but the use of the home-born shilling as an aid to calligraphy shows a distinct advance from savagery to barbarism. It is seriously believed by some that the intention may have been geodetic, or, in the view of the cannier, domestic economical. But by writing thitherways end to end and turning, and end to end hitherways writing, and with lines of litters slittering up and louds of latter slattering down, the old seme to my place and Jupit pet back again, from them let rise till Hamlet sleep. Where in the waste is the wisdom? Another point. In addition to the original sound, pounce powder, drunkard paper, or soft rag used, any vet or inhanger in aus sots social can see the scene for himself. A wee fiftofty old room, the cherry spluttered on the one carrig, a darka dishi novus from Dalbania, any guts quantity of raki, a Portugal, and some buck sitting out on the sofa. You remember the sort of softball sucker Motru used to tell us when we were all bidibiyas or nippies and messas. It has acquired accretions of tertious matter, whilst loitering in the past. The tea-time stained terminal, say not the tag mummer, or shows a failure, is a cosy little brown study all to oneself, and whether it be thumbprint, made mark, or just a portrait of the artless, its importance in establishing the identities in the writer complexes. For if the hand was one, the minds of active and agitated were more than so, will be appreciated by never forgetting that both before and after After the Battle of the Boyne, it was a habit not to sign letters always. Tip. And it is surely a lesser ignorance to write a word with every consonant too few than to add all too many. The end? Say it with missals then, and thus arabesque the page. You have your cup of scolding, souche-chong, your tapers wax and drop, your cat's paw, the clove or coffin nail you chewed or champed as you worded it, your lark in clear air. So why, pray, sign anything, as long as every word, letter, pen stroke, paper space is a perfect signature of its own? A true friend is known much more easily and better into the bargain by his personal touch, habits of full or undress, movements, response to appeals for charity, than by his footwear, say. And, speaking anent Tiberius and other incestuous salacities, among gerontophiles, a word of warning about the tender-loined passion hinted at. Some soft-nosed peruser may mayhem take it up erogeniously, as the usual case of spoons, prostituta in erba plus dinky pinks deliberatively somersaulting off by sexical at the main entrance of curate's perpetual soutane suit with her one to see, who picks her up as gingerly as any balm-bearer would to feel whereupon the virgin was most hurt, and nicely asking, "Why have ye been so grace a morning, and where were you chased, me child?" Be who farther potential, and so wider, but we grisly old psychos who have done our unsmiling bit on Alice's when they were young and easily frightened in the penumbra of the procuring room, and what oracular compression we have applied to them. Did we care to sell our fee-bought silence and camera, tell our very moist-nostriled one that father, in such variegated contexts, is not always undemonstrative relative, often held up to our contumacy, who settles our hash bill for us, and what an innocent all-broads adverb such as miserly looks like can be suggested of under the pudendoscope. And finally, what a neurasthene nympholept endocrine pineal typus of inverted parentage with a prepossessing trauma present in her past, and a priapic urge for congress with agnates before cognates fundamentally is feeling for under her lubricious meiosis when she refers with liking to some feeler she fancies face. And we could yet. What need to say? 'Tis as human a little story as paper could well carry, in effect as sing to Solomon, suing to sweet victuals, while as unbluffingly blue to brusque blunt as an Ezra, the cat's meter, the meter's cat's wife, the meter's cat's wife's half better, the meter cat's wife half better's meter, and so back to our horses, for we also know what we have perused from the pages of I Was a General, the shouting up of Bouskilivism by Shotton Boom, that Father Michael about this red time of the White Terror equals the old regime, and Margaret is the social revolution, while cakes mean the party funds, and dear thank you signifies national gratitude. In fine, we have heard, as it happened, of Spartacus Intercellular. We are not corners yet, dead hand. We can recall with volunteers the froggy Jew, and sweeter far 'twere now we thinks in Dumnill's fair city, ere one more year is o'er. We torned our coasts to the good gay tunes, when from down swords the sea merged the old Douth guns, and answer made the bold old dwyer. but est modus in verbos. Let a prostitute be whoso stands before a door and winks or parks herself in the fornix near a macason wall. Sin, 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 sin. And the curate one who brings strong wafers. Gin, 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 gin. But also, and enough forget, that there is many a sleeps between, some at home's first, and more in us Auslands last, and that the beautiful presence of waiting cates will, until life's, be more than enough to make any milk Mike, in the language of sweetheart's punch, hell's hate into his twin Nicky, and that Maggie's tea, or your majesty, if heard as a boast from a born gentleman, is... ? 4. If the lingo gas between kick sheets, however basically English, were to be preached from the mouths of wicker church wardens and metaphysicians in the row and advocatos, all voyous, demi-voyelles, languats, labrils, dentals, gutterhouse, and fruits, where would their practice be? Or where the human race itself? Where the Pythagorean sesquipedalia of the Panepistemian, however apically Volapucky grunted and grumwelled Ichabod, Habakkuk, Openoff, Ugamig, Hipaxel, Gomenon, Biff, over country stiles behind slated dwelling houses, down blind lanes, or, when all fruit fails, under some sacking left, on a coarse cart? So hath been love, 'tis, and will be, till wares and tears and ages.